Hi, everyone. How are you? Can you all hear me okay? Cool. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Kristen Santori. I'm the programming manager here at the church, programming and communications manager. Before we begin this evening's program, I would like to invite you all to join me in giving an acknowledgement. We gather together today on the unceded land of the Montaukett, Manhasset, and the Shinnecock nations, who are still very much here and very much part of our community, and for which we are very, very grateful for. So may the continued respect and gratitude that we have for the ancestral ties to this land, as well as each other, be what lead us forward. Thank you. How many of you already know the speaker? And how many of you, with your raised hands, are really big fans of the speaker? Very cool. For those of you who have come to Knowledge Friday, you've heard me say it before that I really love our core programming series because it is made up of you guys. It's made up of us, I should say. It's made up of this community. And I think Bonnie really highlights somebody who is really amazing in our community that everybody should have the opportunity to learn a little bit more about. When I was looking at her bio, I was kind of astounded. It just kept going with all these wonderful things. And I learned very quickly that this woman has dedicated her entire life to service. So with that, I would like to say thank you. And please welcome Ms. Bonnie Cannon.
Well, first of all, thank you to the church. Thank you, Kristen. And this is something that, if you want to get to know who Bonnie is, how many of you have seen me speak on several occasions? Okay. Well, this is a time that you're going to understand that Knowledge Friday is getting to know who I am and getting to know about me. The first thing that I'm going to say to you is that every time that I get before a crowd to speak, I am very uncomfortable. It is the last thing that I want to do is to speak in front of people. And my insides are turning inside out. I would rather be sitting in the back reading a book or out of the way where nobody notices me, and that is who I am. I am your extrovertal introvert, and that's who I am. I am an introvert by nature. For those of you that don't know, I am a local, born and raised in Southampton, and that was very interesting as far as my journey, and it kind of explains some of the things that I do now and why I do some of the things that I do. At a very early age, I was raised in a village, a foundation of individuals who poured love and empathy and compassion into me at a very early age. My foundation, my background is my people are from the South. My mom is from North Carolina, and my dad was from South Carolina. Spent a lot of time with my maternal family. I hung around a lot of seniors. So I spent a lot of time with my grandmom and my granddad. Why? Because my parents had to work. And so while they were working, they needed someone to take care of me. And so I spent a lot of time with my grandmom and my granddad, which it goes into, I'm telling you this because it goes into a lot of what we do today and what I do today. My grandmom, I'm going to tell you something about my grandmom and the foundation that I came from. They were a very loving family. My mother is the mom of, there's 7 of them, 5 boys and 2 girls. All of them started out in North Carolina and they migrated here for various reasons to work. My grandmother was a house cleaner, and she worked for the Cancellaries. Does everybody remember the Cancellary drugstore? My grandmother was the house cleaner for the Cancellaries, and they were like a part of our family as well. So the Cancellaries, a lot of times my grandmother would go clean for the Cancellaries, and she would take me with her. And then I would get to meet their children. A lot of times we would play together, or I would sit there and things would come together. So back then it was not about, it was a village. When I say it's a village, I want you to get the picture of what this village was. My grandmom and my parents, they didn't have a lot of insurance back then, health insurance. So anytime that I was sick, or because I would get asthma, I had problems with asthma and bronchitis and things of that sort, grandmom would call Dr. Cancellari. Dr. Cancellari would say, bring her over to the office. They'd bring me over to the office. Dr. Cancellari would give me a shot, some type of antibiotic, and that was my health insurance. And that's the way that things went. Anytime there was anything wrong, there was Dr. Cancellari as far as health-wise. My uncle, who needed to work, he ended up working in the Cancellari drugstore for many, many years there. Dr. Cancellari hired him there. My mom, she ended up doing domesticated work as well, working for different individuals. My uncles, they ended up working construction. And the thing is that everybody lived in the same neighborhood. My uncle, I had one uncle that was up the street. My grandmother was at the corner. We were down the hill. My other uncle was on the other side of the street. And then I had another uncle that was up at the top of the hill. Then I had an uncle that was in East Hampton. But the thing was that we were all together. And in that neighborhood, you had other individuals that were there, that were a part of the village. I had Miss Madeline, who came from the north, that was 2 doors up. I had Miss Lesame, that was 3 doors up. I had Mr. Johnson, that was across the street, you know. I had all of these individuals that were there, you know, and then when you needed things to be fixed in your house, or you had problems in your house or things like that, or with your car, you could go down to the Southampton tire shop, and Gus, I think his name is Gus, was down there. Him and his wife were there, and they would say, okay, Clara, we'll go, or Melvin, we'll fix the car, put it on your tab, pay on it as you go, you know? And that was what my upbringing was. And then in the household, you had individuals that came from the South, that my grandmother and grandfather, they always helped those that were marginalized or underserved. So at any time, you could have a couple that was a brand new couple that would come up and they would live at my grandmother's house. You would have someone that may have some type of issue, be that mental or what we call substance abuse issue or whatever. My grandmother would take them in. And this is what I saw on a constant basis, pretty much from a very, very, very young age. I enjoyed sitting in hiding, or pretty much hiding in the living room, trying to not be seen while everybody was in the living room talking and just listening to the conversations and the laughter. I enjoyed basically the time with my grandmom and my granddad where we would play dominoes at the kitchen table, or my grandfather would learn me some type of a newness of some type of a concoction that he would have tea at night with milk in it and put some extra sharp cheese in it. Yeah, it's really good. My grandfather taught me that. Yeah, you got to try that. These are the things that I grew up on. And then we would travel from New York to North Carolina every year for Christmas. A lot of times I would go with my grandparents all the way to North Carolina for Christmas because my mom and dad had to work. And so a lot of times they would pack all of the Christmas gifts up in the trunk. I had no idea who Santa Claus was, but I still thought, and I would get there, and I never figured out how Santa got all my gifts to our homestead that we have in North Carolina. So it was a very warm and rich foundation that I had growing up of people giving servitude or giving service and actually helping individuals and helping those that are downtrodden and those that need help and just showing love. And of course, church was a big part of my life and still is. Sundays we would go to church. Sunday mornings, my grandmother would fix a large breakfast, and all of the brothers and my uncles and everyone would come to her house before church started on Sunday morning. And we would all come together before going to church. And these are the types of things that mattered and that I lived under growing up. And so this is basically a part of me. And then going to living in Southampton, walking to the beach, walking down through the village, knowing all of the individuals that were owners of markets and things of that sort, Katinas and all of that. They would know, everybody knew everybody. So you had a hard time getting out of order anywhere, because if you did, then somebody would call somebody that called somebody that got back to your mom or grandmom or whatever, and then you would get in trouble. So you had a lot of people that cared, and that's what this village of Southampton and the Hamptons meant to me. But there's another side that I also learned, because Southampton was also very, very white. And the black people that were there were in a minority. So I didn't see many people that looked like me. And then when I went to school, there were times when I was very smart growing up, but because of the color of my skin, some people would think that I wasn't that smart. And my mom was a very big advocate, and I learned advocacy because she would advocate for me on a constant basis. I remember there was a time when they actually put me in a special ed class. And I came home, I never forget, I came home and I was showing my mom all my grades. And I was so happy because I was getting 80s and 90s and 100s. I was like, look at this, I'm getting 80s, I'm getting 90s and 100s. And she would say to me, something is wrong with this picture. Why are you not struggling in these classes? Why are you getting 80s and 90s? And I'm like, well, I'm not good. She says, well, no, then you need to be challenged. And she went down to the school only to find out that they made a mistake, put me in a special ed class when I was supposed to be in the advanced class. So I moved into the advanced class, And from there on, we had regents and non-regents, and I was in regents. And in our regents classes, you could count maybe 2 or 3 black individuals that were in the regents and non-regents classes. Everyone else in the regents and non-regents classes were white. All of the black kids and everybody else, they were taking non-regents classes, but I can count on my hand the number of kids that were in the regents class. And in those regents classes, what would happen is a lot of times you would get assigned seats. In the classes, in the assigned seats, you would always have a black kid over here, a black kid back here, black kid back here. I was the black kid back here. Never assigned to the front seats, never assigned to the middle seats or anything of that sort. And so I started to see that there were differences in the way people were being treated based upon the color of their skin. And then I also learned that I didn't know much about my history. And from there, I had a real thirst to know who I was, because I had grown up all of my life around all of these. All I saw is white. All I knew was white. And I wanted to know more about who I was. So as I graduated out of high school, I said, you know what? I'm going to go to a black college because I want to know who I am. And from there, I graduated, and I wanted to go to the best college, so I went to Howard University. I got accepted into Howard. And if you could imagine going you would think this was not the case, but I think I was similar to probably how many of you would be when you came into Chocolate City, which was Washington, D.C. I was overwhelmed and overtaken because I had not seen so many black people in my entire life. And now my life, which was all white before, now had changed like that. And believe it or not, that it really was an adjustment for me, because that was something that I was not at all used to. Because I was with people now that were similar to me. And not for nothing, before I was the 1, 2, 3, 4 black kid. So I was always top of the game because I was like one of the best black kids there. Now I'm here with all the rest of these black kids, and I'm no different than everybody else. And there's others that are, better than me and excel better than me and that sort of thing. So just to get adjusted to that in itself was an experience. And that experience pretty much also went to changing my life, because I didn't know anything. And I learned so much from my 4 years at Howard University. Actually, it was 5 years at Howard University. And then I learned how to pretty much advocate for myself more. I experienced being in a march for Martin Luther King's birthday, making that a holiday. I was there for that, marching to the government buildings and protesting, and having that type of experience was something that I would have never had. And then there was life after that, where I pretty much from there went into computer science. I always loved numbers. I loved math. I was very good in math. And because I was very good in math, and I loved math and I loved music. So, of course, I wanted to go to school for music. And this is a question that I question every day with myself, is what would have happened if I majored in music versus majoring in computer science. And my mother, she said, if I'm going to pay this money, you're going to go in for a field where you're going to get something out of. So she pretty much made the decision for me. and I ended up going for computer science. Computer science I got my degree, and I had a job before I graduated out of school. Worked for in Toledo for actually I hate it. Is anybody here from Ohio? I'm sorry. I am so sorry. Okay. I got a job. I got a job I got a job before I got out of school. Toledo, Ohio, working for Owens Fiberglass or Owens Corning. I forget even the name of it. They turned into Wicks Lumber Company, but I got a job there, and I was pretty much one of the highest paid getting a job at that time there, and I absolutely hated Toledo, Ohio. You could go 4 corners in an hour and you have gone around Toledo, Ohio. There was one mall. It was just nothing to do. And I was like, oh my goodness. So I think Owens Corning merged with Wicks. And so the training program that I was in, they actually disbanded of it. And so all of the people that were in the training class at that particular time, when they disbanded of the training class, they told us we no longer had a job. And I think I was the only one that was celebrating that I did not have to stay in Toledo, Ohio. Hence what brought me into New York. Came back to New York, and again, being very persistent, ended up having a job with Bell Atlantic, and worked there for about 17 years as a computer programmer, as an engineer, as a regional manager, and lived there for about 17 years in that DMV area. Working there, had a very successful career, and they merged, downsized, and me, and again, all of this, I want you to pick out the pieces that talk to what I do now at the center. I got pregnant, and the guy that I got pregnant with, he didn't want to be with me. So I was a single mother, pregnant, had a good job, had a baby that I needed to take care of. I had my own house, I had my own car, I had a great job, but I had this baby that I needed to take care of. And in corporate, that's very hard to do, especially when, what I was doing and traveling and having to go to corporate meetings and do presentations and things of that sort. It was very hard for me to do. So thank God, again, for that support and that foundation of my mom and my dad. My mom, she was working at Gristedes, and that's the other thing. The only way that I went to college is that my mother worked at Gristedes, my dad worked as a construction worker, and my mom worked overtime, and they paid for me to go to college. That's how I got to college. There was no financial aid or whatever. My parents worked. We had chicken dinners many times just to pay for tuition and things of that. Anybody had any chicken dinners from churches or whatever? Like from actually not churches, the place, but churches, establishment, those fried chicken dinners or spare rib dinners. Well, we would have those dinners out of the house and sell dinners. That's how my tuition and things were paid for. And the community would come and they would buy those dinners, and that would help to supplement that. But I got pregnant. My mom, she would drive from New York to Maryland like it was nothing and help to take care of my son at the time. It got so bad that sometimes we would meet on the New Jersey Turnpike. I would literally drive from Maryland to, I think, Exit 8, and my mom and dad would be sitting in the car waiting, and I would take Spencer and hand him out the car to the window to my mother. They would take them. I said, see you guys later. And I had to go back to do whatever I needed to do for my job. And so that, talks to, being a single parent and what single mothers and things go through. And so from there, I ended up being able to transfer into New York. I said I had it. It was a godsend when 9X merged with Bell Atlantic, and Bell Atlantic became one. And I said, my boss had a great boss, and I transferred back to New York. I said, please. I said, I gotta, I'm going home. I don't want to go home where I have some support systems. And I went home, and my mom, she helped because my dad passed. My dad passed of prostate cancer. And, prostate cancer is something that could have been, him passing could have been avoided. Again, speaks to a lot of what I do now in serving and educating. So my mom, she helped me to raise Spencer. She helped me to raise my son Spencer. She kept him, and she was there for me when I had to travel. I was a regional manager. I had people in Rhode Island, New Hampshire, and Boston, and New Jersey. I had to go back to DC, and a lot of times mom had Spencer. If not for my mother, I would not have been able to do the things that I did at Bell Atlantic, or even to keep my job. I wouldn't have been able to do it. Childcare was expensive then. I was very protective. Is he safe? And so him being with my mom made it very safe for what we do. So then after that, everything buckled. Bell Atlantic, Verizon said we're downsizing. And guess what? You've been here 16, 17 years, we want to offer you a package. You can either take it or you can go. So I took the package. But take one of the things that seeing my mom, my grandmom, and how they worked, that they taught me is to hustle. Always don't rely on one thing. Always have 2 or 3 side hustles in your back pocket. I've sold everything from Tupperware to Avon to Amway to you name it. I've pretty much done it. So there goes that entrepreneurship side of me, where even today I have some things that I still do on the side as side hustles, because that's what I was taught, and that's what they taught me. And so I had my own business. I created my own business called East End Staffing Solutions. And I was recruiting and training CNAs to work at the new nursing home facility. So I trained, and I would get them trained, and they would work there, and then I get paid a referral fee. And that was looking really good. But I needed something more stable. And so my work in the community I was always part of some type of organization where it was dealing with people and serving people. And I became people just tapped me on the shoulder and asked me, hey, do you want to do a neighborhood watch in the community? Okay, sure, let's do that. I'll do it. Then from there it was, hey, you think you might want to be trustee in the village of Southampton? We got a spot open there, Romanowski. I said, what do I have to do? He said, oh, you just got to come to 2 meetings a month. Are you sure? Yeah. Well, he lied. He lied. And it was more than 2 meetings a month. But I was a trustee for about 6 years. It turned into a 6-year term. And I learned so much from civic advocacy, from how the government runs, the back ends in the government, so on and so forth, and how important that is, that it impacts the community. I actually was the one that started the farmers market that was in the village of Southampton. And the the senior committee and what they do for the seniors. I did that as well. But from there, again, when you look at the things that I do now, it all goes back to your foundation and from your past and from what you experience. So what I'm trying to say to you, because I don't want to be too long-winded, and I don't want to put anybody to sleep either, but what I'm trying to say to you, and there goes my mom coming in now. Hello, Mom, and that's Mr. Phil. And so what I'm trying to say to you is that a lot of what I do goes from my foundation and from my family, and from the things that I've done, for what I've seen other people do and what I've seen my family do. I have been now. I let my business go, and somebody asked me to be on the board at the Bridgehampton Childcare Center. And I said, yeah, okay, fine, I'll do it. Next thing I know, I'm getting tapped on the shoulder. Do you want to be executive director? I know nothing about children. I don't have children education. I'm not a child care person. I don't know. They said, we don't care. We think that you could be impactful here. I said, I'm all about business. What I know is corporate. This is me. This is me. I'm about, anybody can tell you, I'm about the dollar, looking at the dollar and what is going to be the end line. Same thing with the housing authority that I chair. Housing authority, I was just supposed to be the community liaison. From being the community liaison from the housing authority with affordable housing, what happened there is everybody left. There was nobody there but me and another lady. And they were getting ready to shut it down. And I was like, oh no, you can't do this. People need affordable housing. So they said, well, what are you going to do? I was like, well, what would you want me to do? And so I said, okay, I'll be the chair. I'll be the chair. And 17 years later, housing authority is still going on, building houses, making things happen in the community. So from there, all I'm saying to you is that I became the executive director from the at the Bridgehampton Child Care Center. And at the center, pretty much what I brought to it, because when I got there, the Bridgehampton Child Care Center was nothing more than, I would say, a daycare center. That's basically what it was, a summer program. It was a rich summer program, and it was a rich daycare center, but it had a budget about $200,000 at the time when I got there. And from there, what I envisioned were things that I had experienced and brought from my past, which was I wanted to have this village. I wanted to be able to help the community, help the children. I wanted to be able to impact lives and make a change in lives. I wanted to have that village. I wanted to have that intergenerational staff, because we have elders and seniors that work at the center as well as the youth. So it's really nothing that I created, but everything that I do at the center has to do with who I am and where I came from. And so with that,
out of tragedy, a center of love and service was born. Over 70 years ago, a fire claimed the lives of 2 children of seasonal workers. In response, a commitment was made to create a safe space where all children would be protected, nurtured, and recognized. That commitment became the center. The center is the heartbeat of a vibrant community on the East End of Long Island, offering programs and services for all ages. Children come here to learn, laugh, and feel a true sense of belonging. At the center, every child and family is known, valued, and celebrated. In our community, 1 in 12 people face food insecurity. At the center, we feed over 500 people weekly with dignity and love. Our food pantry is more than food, it's sustainability. Thanks to our supporters, we continue this vital work week after week. The center becomes a second home to those who are a part of our after-school programming, a place to learn and grow. From homework help and STEAM to cooking, music, chess, equestrian lessons, and more. Our kids explore, create, and thrive. Wellness is at the heart of the center. We raise awareness around critical health issues and host educational events that bring the community together. Through mobile services, we offer dental screenings, full checkups, and mammograms, ensuring care reaches every corner of the East End. Our Thinking Forward lecture series brings critical conversations to the East End, spotlighting equity, politics, health, and lived experience. Our workforce development strategy empowers individuals ages 18 to 45 with job readiness, soft skills, and hands-on training, opening doors to new career paths, trades, and continuing education opportunities. Through the Dream Teen program, we build confidence and leadership. We offer SAT prep courses, college visits, career days, and guidance to help youth along as they envision and pursue their future. In the winter, we serve as a vital refuge for people experiencing homelessness on the East End. Through our partnership with Maureen's Haven, we are able to provide warm beds, hot meals, and emergency support. We offer comfort, care, and stability in times of crisis. When there's a need, the center steps up. From ESL and CPR to young father initiatives and cultural events, we bring people together to live, learn, and lead. And this is just the beginning. A gym, a pool, expanded learning spaces, because every child deserves the chance to thrive. To our donors, volunteers, and partners, this is your legacy. Every meal, every class, every child, you make it possible. This is more than a center. This is community. This is hope. This is the future.
So I'm going to end here and say that when you want to learn about who Bonnie Cannon is, and if you want to know what the center is about, you've learned by looking at my life, my foundation, my past, my experiences. The center is a picture of basically of who I am and where I came from and the experiences that I have had. So I thank you very much for this time.
Thank you, everyone, for coming out. Thank you again, Miss Bonnie, for being here and for sharing your story.